Hi folks, Country Living on a Shoestring here. I wanted to give you another update on what's going on and bring anybody up to speed who may not be, and also offer encouragement for those of you who are getting pretty whammy about staying at home if you live in a place in the country where that's required right now. I hope that most of the rural folks that's not as big of a deal as it is for some of the city folks, but who knows at this point where things are headed. So I just wanted to touch base with you today. Now, as I'm recording this, let me look at my numbers here. This virus has 845,600 plus cases worldwide. Over 41,000 people have died. And in the United States, we have 180,000, almost 800 cases and over 3,500 deaths in this country. Now, just to keep that in perspective, though, almost 76,000 of those cases are just in New York State, and really the bulk of that is New York City, larger metro area. New Jersey's second with almost 19,000 cases. So there are places throughout the country where there are certain hot spots, but there are many places where there is no virus. I mean, I can't remember what I saw in the news story, was it yesterday, over 1,000 counties in the country that there are no reported cases. And they're mostly rural counties, of course, which you'd expect. But if you're living in a place that is close to the East Coast or close to the West Coast or near a major city or near a major airport, you are probably in the category where there are growing numbers of cases. This is just the tragedy of this thing, that people just will not follow the proper steps to stop this thing. You've heard it said all over the place, and I'll repeat it here again. This virus cannot spread itself. It's spread through human contact only. It does not fly through the air. You can't just be walking down the street and inhale it. You have to pick it up from somebody else who has it, either somebody who was infected, got it on their fingers, left it on a doorknob somewhere or some other hard surface, and you came right behind them before it died there, and you got it. Or somebody breathed on you that you were close to, or sneezed on you, or coughed on you. The only way it gets into our bodies is through the mucous membranes, which is like the mouth, the nose, the eyes. There's no other way to get it. So if people would just protect themselves, stay apart from one another for a bit longer, we could stop this thing dead in its tracks. That's the absolute truth. And it's just not being done as well as it could be. Now, granted, we are doing far better than some other countries are with this. Of course, we can't believe a word coming out of China. They've got thousands dead that they don't acknowledge, and since they started it, they don't want any more scrutiny on them. But aside from their lies, we have the most cases in the world, but Italy has far more deaths than we do. Italy is closing in on 12,500 people have died, and that's in a small country. Spain also has over 8,000 people dead, so they're suffering terribly with it too. The infection rates in those places are much greater than they are here. So hopefully the president's actions, as best he could do them on the front end of this, to try to get people aware of it and to try to mobilize the government to stop it and to treat it, are going to be effective. We're going to go through a few rough weeks yet. The numbers are going to climb. There's nothing that's going to change that for a few weeks. And after that, hopefully it will peak and then start to slow down. But again, we just have to keep thinking along the lines that I'm going to do what I can to make sure that nobody else gets it. And even if we don't think we're infected, we still have to use the common sense of saying, I'm going to act like I am infected even if I don't have symptoms, so I'm going to make sure I don't give this to somebody else. And if people started thinking that way, then we could prevent the spread of a lot more of it. And that's something we need to emphasize. Even if you're out in the country and you think, I don't come in contact with too many people at all, you just never know. So it's always better to be on the safe side. Yes, this is more of a city disease than a country disease. I understand that, because when you get a whole bunch of people together, you get that many more germs in one small area. You're going to have this. But we need to do our part too to make sure that we're not unwittingly helping to keep this thing alive. Because if it can't jump to a new host, it will die. Either your own antibodies in your body will kill it, or sadly, some people it will kill, but then it will die when they die. So that's the way to defeat this thing until they can get this new drug. And this new drug, this new malaria drug, doesn't kill the virus, but it slows it down from damaging the body. And that gives your body time to make more antibodies so that your own immune system can kill it. That's the way this works. There is no vaccine yet for this because this is a brand new disease that came out of nowhere from China, so nobody had any antibodies created for this thing. So, at any rate, let's talk a little bit about the title of this video, The Virus of Politics, because there's been an awful lot of nonsense in the news about that. We heard Pelosi getting out there saying how the president has blood on his hands because he fiddled around too long. Well, this is the stupidest thing in the world that you can imagine, because she's the one who did all the fiddling with all the impeachment nonsense. And she delayed the vote on the relief package for a week till she could shove in all these kickback payments to her wealthy friends. She's the one with blood on her hands. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. And Cuomo didn't do his job in New York, and de Blasio in New York City certainly didn't. He was too busy hanging out with his buddies doing who knows what, instead of preparing the most dangerous place for terrorism in the world from potential threats. And you see the mess that New York City is now in because of both of these dunderheads who run the city and the state. But at any rate, that's neither here nor there. If you don't live in New York City, obviously it's not as real to you as if you had family or you lived there. And the national media is just still trying to get Trump any way they can. They put false pictures out there. They have reporters asking these stupid questions. Please, folks, if you haven't turned off the networks and CNN and MSNBC for your news, please do so now and go elsewhere. There are many good sites online that have factual news, even if they're not trying to support the president, even if they're just trying to give the basic facts. That's what you want. You know, you can make up your own mind then, but don't listen to these nitwits anymore. They deserve to, all their channels deserve to crash from nobody watching them, because they've been telling lies for so long. It's just damaged this country. So let's find new sources for our information. They're out there. There are many people committed to trying to tell the truth and be professional about it, but we just need to support them and turn the other knuckleheads off. At any rate, talking about living in the country, I know I haven't done any kind of practical updates in a while. That's because there really hasn't been anything new and different to show you. I have been harvesting firewood for next year. I have a number of dead northern ash trees near my one field that the tree harvester a few years ago didn't take. He wasn't on that part of my farm, but I've got a number of, I think there's about 20 trees, 25 trees there, various sizes. Some are small, but then there's some that are larger too. So I'm probably going to get the bulk of what firewood I need for next burning season out of that. So I've been trying to process that as I can, and I'll be working on that since we're all supposed to stay home now anyway. So I'll probably be working on that through the rest of this month. Well, this is the end of the month, but through April and into May. To try to get all the firewood done for next year. So, but you've seen me do firewood videos before, so there's nothing new that I can show you with that. You know, I've shown you the chainsaws, I've shown you the splitter, I've shown you trees getting dropped. So I don't want to bore anybody with that. So, but I am working on that. I also have a couple of my garden items pre-planted, the stuff I start indoors, like you've seen me do before. I've got 3 different varieties of tomato plants that I have started, and some broccoli. The rest I either plant out directly from seeds, or I will go to a greenhouse I know for some other, like pepper plants and other tomato plants. They always have good quality ones at a reasonable price, so it saves me the time. I have bought some of my sweet corn and my green beans from the one ag store I'm certainly not going to plant them yet here where I am. Our planting season really doesn't start till mid-May here, but I have them. I'm going to try to do, I've always liked the Blue Lake bush beans for green beans. They seem to be the heaviest bearing beans, if I can keep the rabbits out of them this year. I had one summer, I swear, I did something like 14 different pickings of my green bean patch. Now that wasn't each plant 14 times, but I went back to the same plants maybe 3 and 4 times during that summer with the Blue Lake. So they are a very good green bean, I think. I also have 2 different varieties of sweet corn I'm going to put in again. One is called Temptation, which is a bicolored, super sweet, great sweet corn. And then I also have another one that's a yellow variety called Honey Select that I found a few years ago. Again, very sweet, very tasty. Their cobs aren't huge. They're good size, but they're not, say, as big as some of the Silver Queen or what have you, Silver King. But they're good. They're a good size, and because of the taste, they're great. My wife and I have been talking about, should we do bigger gardens this year because of what's going on in the country? Will there be a need for people to put up more food? Will we be able to sell some of the stuff locally if there's some supply chain interruptions from other parts in the country? I hope that doesn't happen. I don't foresee that happening, but it might not be a bad idea. It's always a good idea to have extra food on hand. I'm not a hoarder. I'm not a survivalist, but you know, we have meat in the freezer, we have veggies in the freezer, we have canned goods, partly because we just like the taste of our own grown stuff better than the stuff you can get in the stores, and partly because then we always have it. We don't, if a store runs out of it, well, you know, we don't make our homemade toilet paper, so we still have to go to the store to try to buy that. But I'm sure there's somebody with a survival channel that's going to tell you how to do that, but that's not me. So I'm getting ready for a good gardening season. I hope you are, wherever you are. If you're, maybe you're already planting, if you're in part of the country where the growing season is much longer. I know my son has not done any kind of really prep work yet for his spring planting season on his farm. He's going to put, you know, spray it dead. He's going to put manure on. He's going to, you know, get his hydrogen and other fertilizers on when that time comes, but he hasn't begun that yet. Some of the farmers around here who do tillage farming, I've seen have started ripping up the soil because it hasn't been a very wet spring, so they can get in the fields a bit earlier. The one guy's fields, I saw his winter wheat is starting to come up. It's getting nice and green, so that's a good thing too. The rye that I planted in my garden last year is green now. I'm just going to let it grow until it's dry enough for me to get in the garden, and when I get the mowers out, I'll mow it and then till it under, but we aren't to that point yet. This is the time still to get the equipment ready, so if you're stuck at home, you might as well you know, get your oil changed in your tractors and sharpen mower blades and all that. That's on my agenda. I've started to do some of that as well. So that's coming up too. It won't be long where we live here that we'll have to start mowing grass. Maybe you're already doing that where you are, but that season is coming. So just ignore the nonsense from the politicians, ignore the nonsense from the media, focus on common sense protection for you and your family, for your neighbors with this virus thing. Pray that this thing can be stopped before it gets as bad as it is in other countries. And we just pray that in general the entire world will be able to overcome this and put it behind us. And then at some point there's got to be a reckoning for China. There has to be accountability for this mess that they created. Whether it was intentional or accidental is irrelevant at this point. They just need to be made to never ever be allowed to let this happen again. And I don't know what that means. The experts will have to decide that, whether it's sanctions or what have you. But this is insane that this happened in this day and age when it could have been completely prevented. At any rate, I thank you for listening today. Please stay safe, stay strong, enjoy living out in God's green countryside and living out in the country. Enjoy the spring as it's coming or has come to wherever you live, and hang in there. We'll get through this time and we'll be stronger than ever. Please subscribe if you haven't. Hit the notifications bell so that you get updates, and we'll get back to doing more of the practical country living videos sometime soon. Thank you.